Yeah, thanks. Fascinating talk. My point was, you mentioned the chap who wanted to build his house in stone, and he wrote this letter to the landowner saying, "Can I do it in stone?" Presumably that would have been written in Welsh, I would imagine, the time it was. So did they always need the landowner's permission before they could build anything? And was there any stipulation on it, like the Tyrinos session, they had to build it?
That's quite an interesting question. Yeah, it's a good question because in the past, everything was owned by some estate, whether it was Nghwm Elan, whether it goes back to the time of Strata Florida Abbey, after the Abbey is dissolved in 1538 or whatever, then these private estates take control of the land, and the estate owners were very assiduous in exercising their rights. To the point of execution, it was like, you did not transgress. There are lots of accounts of people who've been jailed, transported, fights, brawls, armies clubbing each other on the mountains, arguing over where the boundary runs. It was a really contentious issue because the ownership of land equals the ownership of resources, equals the ability to make money. So there's a lot at stake. So yeah, the Edwin's it's a Carmarthenshire example, but it's the best example I've seen of a tenant actually writing for permission to do something, because you could not just build your house. And I think of over at in the Ceredigion side, around sort of Pont Arbenigwyr, that area, there's a famous a squatters settlement on the edge of the hills there, quite a big one. And the name escapes me at the minute, but there are letters there from the lord of the manor, as it were, the local squire, probably Nante also, one of the big houses in Ceredigion. I can't remember which one now. It wasn't Havod, but it was one of the other ones. And he was writing to his solicitors and saying, I want those people off my land. They are the scum of the earth. I will not have it. And it's quite vicious stuff. And these were poor people on the edge of society who had nowhere to go, who were impoverished, and they were literally living in huts on the common. And this guy, I can see them from my house. I'm not having it, and he calls them the scum of the earth. And there are examples of, I can think of Cymystwyth, we're going further west again, of the squire of Havod. There's a newspaper story of two boys caught rabbiting on his land. The punishment is quite severe, and the families were kicked out of their homes. So yeah, the power of the estates was immense. Not all bad. I have to counterbalance it. They did good things as well, some of them, to be fair. They're not all evil people. Sorry, John.
No, but it's an interesting point as well, because we look at, why is that there? And we think, why is that farm there? And why is that? Because it looks south and it does this. But we quite often forget that there were always other constraints. You may not have been able to build there. There may have looked better because it was south and it was near the water and whatever. Why did they build over there when it was looking north and it wasn't near the river or whatever? It's maybe down to land ownership and what they could and couldn't do. And that we can't quantify this in any way, but that may also be true in prehistory as well. Particularly, once you get to the Bronze Age, you're getting more and more people on the land. And certainly by the time you get to the Iron Age, you're starting to get more tribal different people. I own this. This is ours. Keep away. There's more people. Once you get more people, you get more pressures on the land. And so even with Bronze Age things, Iron Age things, that's an element we can't necessarily work out, is who owned this or who believed it was theirs. And it's something always to bear in mind when you're looking at these sites. Just because it looks, that's silly, why would they do that? There's something, maybe other elements we can't know about at play.
Some of those Bronze Age cairns, for instance, on the hilltops, may be marking a boundary. This is ours, stay away. But then the two little stones at both Divine, as you come over from Abergwest Common through the pass, are they there to say that this is the end of your road, this is the start of our road? We cannot get into their minds, but we can speculate, can't we? But yeah, no, it's so interesting how the people controlling land, how it affects history and how it affects the landscape. The boundaries that they built, the big banks, things like that. It's ever present. I don't know, but yeah, it's a great question.
How often are the 18th, 19th century cottages built on old sites that are already? Because in other bits of the country, they're often built. You've got a 19th century cottage, but actually people have lived on that that site since forever.
Yeah.
Do you know, I think by and large, not a great deal, not in this landscape. The uplands, well, you will see sheepfolds. What happens is you get this 16th, 17th century hut, or even a medieval hut, a house site with stone foundation, and they get abandoned and forgotten, okay? Then in the 18th, 19th century, Shepherd Jones comes along, and he wants somewhere to pen his sheep, and the stone's lying there, and he will build a sheepfold on top, and you'll see the foundations of the house beneath the sheepfold. That happens quite a lot. There's a lot of many examples of that. But I think, you see, there's two processes at play. The Hafod-Hendry model of medieval times, okay? They went there for the summer, up to the hills. They came off the hills for the winter, okay? Once you go through the medieval into the post-medieval, there's a different thing pushes people, takes people to the hills. It's population pressure, going back to your point in a way, that I think, you know, Henry VIII's time, think of that early 16th century. Between then and the end of Elizabeth I's time, should we say, if we put it in terms of English monarchs, the population of Wales probably doubled, okay? So suddenly we need to feed more people. Now we need to pushing onto the margins of the hills and build new farms. So not reusing the old ones. Sometimes you'll go back to where the Harvard was. That does happen. Not saying it doesn't happen, but you tend to build new farms. And then you go then to the Industrial Revolution, the population quadruples. Now you need a lot more food. And now you've also got the droving trade. In the intervening period, the droving trade has developed. So you need herdsmen and you need shepherds and all these people producing the meat to walk to London or to Birmingham or all the big cities, yeah? So you need these people in the hills. This is the Lluest thing is coming in then. You need people managing the hills full time, but there's so many more mouths to feed. We need so much more food. We're pushing higher and higher. Okay, so it's virgin territory in a way. So the settlements they build tend to can usually be new, I suspect. You'll see brand new farmsteads. I'll qualify that by saying I have seen documentation from the Pumlummon area from the 18th century records where they talk to the occupants of some of the Lluest, the shepherds living in them, and ask them for what they understand about their place. And the old shepherds will say, well, these were people lived here in the summer before the memory of man. Because even in the 18th century, they knew that their houses were Havods from the medieval period. They still went to the same places. So it's so complicated, but there's an element of truth in some, but you'll take every one case by case, and every single site is different. That's the amazing thing. Every one of these archaeological features is individualistic. It's to suit the purpose of a person or a group of people at a particular time. Like, you know, Redrow built estates of 500 houses. They all look exactly the same. They didn't do that. You know, I've got 3 kids. I need a bit more room. I want to put a bit that there, and people just made it up as they went along. So it's just, but yeah, but I say on the whole, on the uplands, I don't feel that there's that rebuilding that happens.
And we tend to find that we've got the long huts and the long houses, the little stone foundations, are in slightly different locations really. They're maybe more by the edge of a stream or something. Whereas when you get to the slightly bigger developments, like you're saying, coming off the Lluest and people being more settled, then they're picking a different sort of location because of their needs. You don't want to be by the stream in the winter, because the stream might be coming through the front door, sort of thing. You want to be slightly higher up and sheltered. You've got to have something for all year round.
The drainage, because you're not just there in the summer, yeah. But an exception would be something like Llanach farmhouse, of course, which has got many periods of reconstruction, because it's a principal farmhouse, clearly, from late medieval times onwards, and it keeps getting reinvented. So there is an element will happen there. But yeah, there's no easy answer to it, I'm afraid. But it's an interesting thing to think about. Mm. Any other questions?
Are you doing any surveying or resurveying of any of the areas just on the borders of the area that are actually concentrated? Because of the, there must be sites that sort of connect and interrelate.
We're not doing anything outside what was defined as the Elan Links study area. I mean, the problem is you could keep going and going and going, so you have to have very defined parameters. It's like looking at the stuff in the reservoirs. No, we're not doing that, even though you're walking past it and whatever. So we're very defined within the project boundary. And certainly then the rest of the area that we'd looked at previously, there wasn't identified the need for that because the sites seemed to be where they were meant to be. Again, better GPS, well, we sort of knew what we were looking for. And obviously we're going to be wrong about some things in the future. Somebody will say, oh, they were rubbish, they didn't know what they're talking about. But no, we have to have defined parameters, else otherwise you end up at Bracken and you really
Abergwestyn Common is
problematic.
a real issue. It's very badly, I think it's fair to say it's very badly recorded.
It was recorded a long time ago and by students with possibly GPS, but possibly doing, and you know, again, you get over there and your landmarks are so few, you're relying on streams and you're relying on your perception of where you are on the stream, which when you haven't got aerial photographs to look at and you've only got 1 to 10,560 on survey maps to look at, so you haven't even got the more detailed survey map, you're getting a bit pushed to your limits of being able to locate yourself.
I mean, I'm old enough to have recorded sites in should we say late 1980s, and I go back to them 25 years later and I can't find them because my dot's in the wrong. It's not. I know what it's about. It's like 150 metres down the valley. I've had a paper map at that time, pre-GPS, and I think I'm about there. And that used to cut the mustard years ago, but it doesn't anymore. You've got to be bang on. When you're dealing with landscape management and the way we talk about the Elan estate, where there's a lot of pressure going to be in the future, again, because of the climate change issue, resources, water, all these things, it's got to be, clinically correct. It's got to be exactly right, or else someone will take a JCB through that K and it'll be gone. It's easily done. Let's not say anything. No. But no, it's... But yeah, if we could be put on some sort of government stipend where we got a lot of money every year, just keep walking. It'd be lovely. But unfortunately that doesn't exist, and so you do come up to the fence and you look over the fence and think that looks nice.
But for your own sanity, you have to walk past, because otherwise you just keep encroaching and growing and whatever. And you need to do what you're doing well and not spread yourself.
I mean, we didn't expect this. We did a research. We thought we'd be tidying up some GPS coordinates,
Yeah, really, we did
but,
think that.
But as I don't know if you said at the start.
I didn't.
No, we started out in that resurvey with 708 recorded features. We've now doubled that. We've got 700 new sites.
And we didn't expect that. We expected maybe we might get another 100 or so sites, maybe, and even that was probably pushing it. But no,
the data set's huge, and there's so many issues. And we've got a
and that includes some really nice archaeology. Some of these sites we've seen that weren't recorded before, particularly the earthwork platforms.
Yeah, and then the difficult thing about it, and I think we're not local, fair enough, okay? We're visitors, but you see, there's a story to those hills that isn't really getting told. The stories of the dams, the reservoirs, and that comes through all the time, doesn't it? But they sit there in this amazing landscape, and that story. Hopefully, the Elan links will they are starting to bring it out without a doubt. But there we go.
When we've finished our report and we've got our data, I think there's hopes that our data will then be used for people as well as managing the estate.
I'll say that the data will go live into the public record. It'll be online, so the photographs and everything will be
They'll be deposited with the historic environment record as well. So.
Yeah, and the National Monitor record, I presume, but we'll come to that
when we get there.
So you'll have access to it, but.
There'll definitely be a PDF report at the end of it, so I think that will be freely available. All the details of the sites will go to the historic environment record, so they will be on the online database you can get through Archaeological. So you can actually look at all the different things there. And I don't know about any...
with the estate at some point, someone should really prepare a book on the archaeology of Elan, without any doubt. There are books in print, but not...
But certainly all the information will be there, and there will be a report that will sort of bring out some of the highlights that we've talked about and some more as well.
I've already asked one.
And you are allowed to ask more.
I know that the Elan Valley has always had this sort of freedom to roam. They were ahead of the time. But all the places you've shown us now, the average person with average stamina, etc., good pair of boots, can anybody actually access those sites, or do you need permission from someone?
The ones that we've shown there, they are all in open access areas and free to roam. So on foot, walking, people can access them.
We're actually quite well behaved when we come to a fence, because small parts of the area are the tenants, but it's still private farmland. and we wouldn't go across their fences without permission. That's a different thing, you know. But
anything that was on that, we were on footpaths or whatever. But the hill is open access. But people don't go off the path. You know, and fair enough. You know, if I go for a walk on a Sunday afternoon, you follow a path. To be fair, so it's sort of, but it is amazing what you can find when you do go off.
There are certain places you can get good, easy access. Carad one, okay. We were showing those long huts, those hut sites near the farm up there. You know, there's a public car park. Yeah, there's a car park. There's the toilets. There's a nice bridleway that takes you right through the archaeological sites. So, you know, there are places like that. Pontar Elan's another one. You've got just above it, you've got the rabbit farm, which some people may have seen or heard of. We haven't dealt with it tonight, but that's just alongside the main road. There are features that are actually quite accessible.
The lead mines aren't actually that inaccessible. There's a modern track that goes up that you can walk up. You can't drive up it, but you can walk up it and then just ford.
The fording the river is a bit difficult most of the year, in fairness. There isn't a bridge, but in dry weather, in the summer, it's okay. But I think maybe that's something for the future is they need to think about is highlighting the places that are accessible and try to encourage people to use that. The Roman fort's quite easy, isn't it, David? I think I'm right in saying, you know, you can park on the main road and walk across to that. That's an interesting place on a frosty winter's evening. It's a good place to be.
You know, some other places are tougher. It has to.
Oh, we find it hard, honestly. It's.
Summer walks.
Oh yeah.
You can't get across the Land Paradise in winter.
No. There's some very harsh landscapes up there, without any doubt. And we've been out there because we tend to do winter work. We were supposed to, but I should say, we were supposed to do this 3 years ago. COVID put a stop to it. You know, that extra couple of years, the extra 2 years waiting, made a lot of difference to us. I got to tell you, it wasn't quite as much fun as I thought it would be. But it is a dangerous landscape, to be honest, in some places. It's not easy, but there are definitely bits that you can go to and enjoy things and without risking your life. But yeah. Okay, anyone else then? We'll take one more maybe.
And if there aren't any more, then tea and coffee and biscuits, and we'll be here if you want to just come up and ask us something individually. But thank you very much.